A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News on MtvSports live from the Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Nadim Majid.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Let's start tonight's Primetime News with the headlines.
Making headlines this evening, President Mahinda Rajapaksa extends an invitation to His Holiness Pope Francis to visit Sri Lanka. The Colombo Crimes Division to conduct investigations into the clashes in Ratupaswala. Chairman of the Yatiyantota Pradeshia Sabha arrested on bribery charges, released on bail. Also in your headlines, a motor accident in Mahawa leaves 2 people dead.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa has extended an invitation to His Holiness Pope Francis I to visit Sri Lanka. The President's invitation follows close on the heels of a revelation made by Pontiff recently while returning from Brazil that he would consider a visit to either Sri Lanka or the Philippines en route to the Holy Land.
In his letter, President Mahinda Rajapaksa says he considers it, quote, a great privilege and an honor to extend to Your Holiness an invitation to undertake a visit to this beautiful country which only recently emerged from 3 decades of conflict, unquote. The Presidential Media Unit issuing a communique said the President also wrote, quote, a visit by Your Holiness to Sri Lanka would be a momentous occasion for all Sri Lankans and I earnestly hope I will soon have the honor of welcoming Your Holiness to our shores, unquote. In his letter, the President also noted the role played by the Roman Catholic Church in Sri Lanka in improving the lives of the citizenry, particularly in the fields of education, healthcare and social service. President Rajapaksa said, quote, the Church's services for acceleration of post-conflict reconstruction, reconciliation and restoration of livelihoods of affected communities are well recognized, unquote. Official diplomatic relations between the Vatican and Sri Lanka were established in 1970. Pope Francis's predecessors, Pope Paul VI, visited Sri Lanka in 1970, while Pope John Paul II visited Sri Lanka in 1995.
Well, following yesterday's clashes, Ratupaswala in Gampaha is in the centre of the public eye. Meanwhile, Senior DIG of the Western Province, Anura Senanayaka, says that the Colombo Crimes Division has been vested with the investigation into the tense situation that broke out yesterday in Ratupaswala. Sri Lanka Army spokesperson Brigadier Ruwan Wanigasuriya said that the Sri Lanka Army will conduct its own investigation. The body of the school student who was killed yesterday is currently lying at the Gampaha Base Hospital morgue. 41 persons injured in yesterday's unrest continue to receive treatment.
Heightened security could be witnessed in the Ratupaswala area in Valivaria, Gampaha today. The Gampaha-Biagamma main road, which was closed off last night, was reopened this morning. The police said that the situation in the area is peaceful at present. Nevertheless, our cameras captured footage of police officers, security forces personnel and riot police who continue to be deployed in Valivaria. The people in this area have been engaged in demonstrations for several days, demanding a solution to a drinking water crisis they are facing, as waste dumped by a factory in the area has contaminated water sources in the Ratupaswala area. The demonstrations aggravated yesterday and resulted in a clash. A 17-year-old schoolboy who was allegedly shot during the unrest died last night. K.A.D. Akila Dinesh, a resident of Helanwatha in Valivaria, was a student of Chandra Jyoti Vidyalaya in Yakkala. This student, who was deprived of the care of his father, was residing under the guardianship of his grandmother. Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police Anura Senanayaka, who visited the home of the deceased student yesterday, said that it was disappointing that such a situation arose, even after a solution had been arrived at during discussions chaired by the Defence Secretary yesterday. It was decided at these discussions to temporarily close the factory until a committee appointed to investigate whether the waste from the factory has contaminated water sources has reached a conclusion.
This boy's funeral must be held with maximum ceremony. The government, His Excellency the President and the Defence Secretary have promised us that this will be done in an unbelievable manner.
Meanwhile, the factory at the centre of controversy has been shut down for 2 weeks.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ පිරිසුදු වතුර ටික ඒ වගේම අර
The sole intention of a hunger strike and the river of people that came here was to return our lives to normal through the shutting down of the factory that spews out poison. All of us there were chanting to it and reminiscing the qualities of Lord Buddha. No one can deny this. This is what happened over 2 days. Last night I was staying at a certain place for my own security. I have been threatened with death and disappearance. I asked the prevailing government to ensure my security.
කිරීම පිළිබඳව වර්ධන තියෙනවා විශේෂයෙන් මම මේ පවතින රජයෙන් ඉල්ලා හිටින්නේ මගේ ආරක්ෂාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම තහවුරු කරන්න ඕනේ.
An individual who was injured in the demonstration and is in critical condition was transferred to the National Hospital in Colombo last night. The rest of the injured are being treated at the Gampaha, Bathapitiwala, Uduvila and Ragama hospitals.
වතුර ප්‍රශ්නයන්නේ අපි ආන්නේ අපි කණ්ඩ ඉල්ලන්නේ නැහනේ. පඩි වැඩි කරන්න ඉල්ලන්නේ නැහැ. අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ එකම දේ අපිට මේ වතුර ටික දෙන්න කියලා. බොන්න. බොන්න වතුර දුන්නට වැඩක් නැහැ අපි නාන්න ඉපේ. නාම කසන කුණු වෙනවා.
Several political representatives visited the Gampaha-based hospital today to inquire into the well-being of the injured.
මරණය පිළිබඳව මම ඒකට සන්තෝෂ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
I am not happy about the death. I say it is wrong. But things like this happen when you try to keep the peace. It could have been prevented. The deaths and injuries have been caused because of our suspicion, lack of faith and impatience. If they had listened to what I said, this destruction would not have happened.
පොඩ්ඩක් ඒ උදවිය මම කී දෙයට සමන් දුන්නා නම් මේ විනාශය වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
අවුරුදු 17ක
He was a 17-year-old schoolboy. When such a boy's life is lost while talking about a problem facing the public, I see it as an extremely malicious act.
ක්‍රියාවක් හැටියට මම දකින්නේ.
The magisterial inquiry into the incident was conducted this morning by Gampaha magistrate Tikiri K. Jayatilaka.
දිනයක් ගරු මහේස්ත්‍රාත්තුමා දෙනවා උසාවියේ. එදාට ඇවිදලා සාක්ෂි දෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසා අද පොඩ්ඩක් පැත්තකට.
Now, we also received a communique from the US Embassy in Colombo regarding this incident. In this communique, the US Embassy says that it is concerned about the violence in yesterday's protest in Valivaria and urges the government of Sri Lanka to respect the rights of people to protest peacefully, adding that it urges restraint from all sides.
On a related note, convening a media briefing today, the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna commented on the incident in Ratupaswala.
ඉතාම සාමකාමීව නිරායුධව මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ ජනතාව තමන්ගේ උද්ඝෝෂණය පවත්වාගෙන ගියේ.
The people of this area held their demonstration peacefully and they were unarmed. That demonstration, that struggle was to topple this government. It was not a mass conspiracy against the military or an attempt to commence an armed struggle. It was very clear that this was a problem regarding means of living. First they gathered all the journalists, loaded them onto a vehicle and then sent all the journalists away. They abused the journalists verbally, grabbed their cameras and beat them while holding them up against lampposts. What are these military men saying? They shot at lampposts in the Valivaria area and destroyed all the lights. They took out the lights, forced the media out of there, and then they began shooting and assaulting people. They shot at the people at the Catholic Church as well. It is clear that it was a 16-year-old boy who was killed. He was shot and killed. People in the area are living in terror, unable to find their children or siblings who have gone missing. It is the responsibility of the government to immediately provide these people with drinking water as a national priority. In truth, this reflects the failure and inability of the government. To cover their failure, they are using oppression and are shooting at the people. We condemn the oppression and the shooting. After several years, the Presidential Security Division personnel who were found guilty in the Rukanta Chandralekha incident have been sentenced. It has been proven today. It took several years, but in the end they had to face punishment. We wish to remind the officers in the police and in the military who are also children of these poor mothers and fathers that they are the ones who will face punishment.
Now, views were also expressed regarding the incident at Ratupaswala at a media briefing convened by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party today.
According to the management of the factory, about 7 or 8 months ago, roughly 100 workers at the factory who were connected to trade unions connected to the JVP were fired for being involved in political disturbance. It is afterwards that this problem arose. This is an important factor. This unfortunate situation arose while attempting to control the situation. Thereby, we can responsibly state that this is not a problem pertaining to water. There was a problem pertaining to water, but a group with a political thirst took hold of it. This is how this situation was created. It is a disappointing situation. As the government, we are continuing to study the background that we have uncovered thus far. We express our condolences to all those families and all those people. We are providing water. What is the next step when the police can no longer control the situation? We all know that the police were unable to control the situation. It would have also been captured through the lens of the media. The police could not control it. I am not justifying the shooting. Please do not interpret it that way. That is not what is happening here. We are speaking of how this situation came to be.
පොලිසියට පාලනය කරන්න බැරුණා. මම මේ වෙඩි තැබීම සාධාරණීකරණය කරනවා නෙමෙයි. එවැනි අර්ථ නිරූපණයක් දෙන්න එපා කරුණාකරලා. ඒක නෙමෙයි මේ වෙන්නේ. මේ තත්ත්වය නිර්මාණය වීම. නිර්මාණය වෙච්ච ආකාරය.
මෙන්න මේ දැන් ලැබුණු පුවතක්. ගම්පහ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂ සහ විපක්ෂ දේශපාලන පක්ෂ එක්වී රතුපස්වල ජනතාවගේ ජල ප්‍රශ්න විසඳීමට අවශ්‍ය පියවරගෙන ඇති බව ආර්ථික සංවර්ධන අමාත්‍යාංශය නිවේදනය කරනවා. ගම්පහ වැලිවේරිය රතුපස්වල ප්‍රදේශයේ ජනතාවගේ පානීය ජල ප්‍රශ්නයට කෙටි කාලීන සහ දිගු කාලීන විසඳුම් අද පස්වරුවේ සිටම ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂ සහ විපක්ෂයේ දේශපාලන පක්ෂ නියෝජිතයින් පක්ෂ ભેදයෙන් තොරව එක් වූ බව ආර්ථික සංවර්ධන අමාත්‍යාංශය නිකුත් කළ මෙම නිවේදනයේ දැක්වෙනවා. ඒ අනුව ගම්මාන 12ක ජනතාවට බලපෑ පානීය ජල ගැටලුවට කඩිනම් සහ සාර්ථක විසඳුම් ලැබී තිබෙන බවයි ආර්ථික සංවර්ධන අමාත්‍යාංශය නිකුත් කළ මෙම නිවේදනයේ දැක්වෙන්නේ. එමෙන්ම දීර්ඝ කාලීන විසඳුමක් වශයෙන් දැනට රතුපස්වල ප්‍රදේශයේ ජනතාවට ජලය නල මගින් සැපයීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය පියවර ඉතා ඉක්මනින්ම ලබා දීම සඳහා ආර්ථික සංවර්ධන අමාත්‍ය බෙසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහතාගේ ප්‍රධානත්වයෙන් පැවැත්ම සාකච්ඡාවේදී තීරණය වී තිබෙනවා. ඊට අදාළ උපදෙස් ලබා දුන් බව මෙම නිවේදනයේ සඳහන් වෙනවා. ඒ අනුව අදාළ අංශවලට අදාළ උපදෙස් ලබා දී තිබෙනවා. මෙහිදී වැඩිදුරටත් අදහස් දක්වූ ආර්ථික සංවර්ධන අමාත්‍යවරයා කියා සිටියේ පරිසරයේ සුරකීම සමගම ජනතාවගේ ජීවන තත්ත්වය උසස් කිරීමේ වැඩසටහනද එක හා සමානව ක්‍රියාත්මක විය යුතු බව. பிரசாந்தன்.
நன்றி அமர்ஸ்ரீ. தற்போது கிடைத்த செய்தி ஒன்று. கம்பஹா வெளிவேறிய ரத்துபஸ்வல மக்களின் குடிநீர் பிரச்சினைக்கு குறுகிய மற்றும் நீண்டகால தீர்வு ஒன்றை இன்று முதல் நடைமுறைப்படுத்துவதற்கு தீர்வு எட்டப்பட்டுள்ளது. இதன் மூலம் கம்பஹா மாவட்டத்தின் 12 கிராமங்களிலும் நிலவிய குடிநீர் பிரச்சினைக்கு நீண்டகால மற்றும் நிரந்தர தீர்வு காணப்பட்டுள்ளது. பொருளாதார அபிவிருத்தி அமைச்சர் பெசில் ராஜபக்ச தலைமையில் கம்பஹா மாவட்ட செயலாளர் அலுவலகத்தில் இன்று பிற்பகல் நடைபெற்ற கூட்டத்தில் ஆளும் மற்றும் எதிர்க்கட்சி பிரதிநிதிகள் கூட்டாக இணக்கப்பாடொன்றை ஏற்படுத்திக் கொண்டுள்ளனர். இந்த 12 கிராமங்களுக்கும் தற்போது குடிநீரை விநியோகிக்கும் பவுசர்களுக்கு மேலதிகமாக மேலும் 6 பவுசர்களையும் 10 உளவு இயந்திரங்களை ஈடுபடுத்துவதற்கும் 300 நீர்த்தாங்கிகளை விநியோகிப்பதற்கும் தீர்மானிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது. இதன் பொருட்டு அமைச்சர் பெசில் ராஜபக்ச சம்பந்தப்பட்ட அதிகாரிகளுக்கு பணிப்புரை விடுத்துள்ளதாக பொருளாதார அபிவிருத்தி அமைச்சு விடுத்துள்ள அறிக்கையில் தெரிவிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது.
Thank you, Krishant. Well, the ruling party and opposition party representatives of the Gampaha district have decided that short-term and long-term solutions will be provided from this evening to the drinking water crisis that has affected 12 villages, including Ratupaswala. This decision was reached during discussions held with Minister of Economic Development Basil Rajapaksa at the Gampaha district secretariat. According to the release issued by the Minister of Economic Development, solutions will be provided devoid of party differences. Thereby, 300 water tanks, 6 additional water bowsers and 10 tractors for water distribution will be provided to the villagers as short-term solutions. Relevant authorities have been instructed to provide tap water in the next few months as a long-term solution to the problem.
On tonight's Words of Wisdom segment, we look at the thoughts of the Indian independence hero Mohandas Karamchand Mahatma Gandhi.
Intolerance is itself a form of violence and an obstacle to the growth of a true democratic spirit. Mahatma Gandhi.